Hello and welcome to Soul Sensations here on Soul Radio USA. Today I am privileged to have soul diva and actress Miss Freda Payne with me. Hello, Freda.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really good. Now, I'm going to get this put right. You are nowhere near those fires, are you?
I'm what?
You are nowhere near those fires in California.
Oh, I'm glad you inquired. I am not, let's say, I can't say nowhere near, but I'm not like close. I'll put it that way. I like the other day, I could actually, when I went out to the boulevard on Ventura, I could actually, looking west, I could see the black clouds. I could see the clouds. And also, sometimes you can actually, when the wind blows in this direction of where I live, we can actually see cinders in the air. But I don't. Thank God it's not really close enough. It's not in this area. But it's not that. Put it that way. It's just a few miles away from here.
Yeah, because I was worried about you and I was worried about Scherrie and, well, most of my area family up there, because I'm like, where are they asking, you know what I mean? But most of you are like south of it, aren't you? Because it's somewhere up in the Malibu way.
Yeah, it's an area like Calabasas is just a few miles down the 101 high. The 101 is right, just about 5 blocks to 6 blocks from me, that 101 highway, and that's not far. That's really close. And going west, the 101 goes right, Calabasas is probably just about maybe 10 miles away from here. That's about it. And the Glory and Westlake Village, they're right. They're not that far away. It's like about a 10 to 15-minute drive.
Yeah.
If you want to calculate it like that on the highway, so it's not that far away.
Well,
but I have good insurance. I have fire insurance, homeowners.
Almost.
My heart goes out. My heart goes out to those people who've lost their homes. Some of those very, very, personal items and things you can never, money can replace it, but the memories and cannot ever be replaced. Certain things are irreplaceable. So I'll put it that way. I feel my heart goes out to those people. They're, that's everything that you have.
Exactly. Yeah, it's your life, and it's gone.
Yeah, it's your life. It's in your home.
Yeah. But I'm so glad that you're safe and everybody else is safe.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine.
Now, the last time we spoke, we were in the pump house in Beverly Hills, wasn't it? I was in my other house. Yeah. Yes. I was in my house in the Hollywood Hills, and there was no problem over there. No. No. Right. I'm going to start the actual questions off now. We've been deviating. Do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and where you were born, like which school you did attend and things like that?
Okay. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and I attended, let's say the grade school I attended was called Crosman, which I'm sure is no longer there or exists. And also I went to, that was Crosman until the 6th grade, and then I went to a middle school called Hutchins, and I don't know if it's still there anymore, but, I don't live in Detroit anymore, but I do go back, and I haven't been to that area. A lot of stuff has disappeared or during the years ago from the 60s, from the riots and things. And then high school, I attended a high school. It was called Central High. That was my high school I attended. Yeah.
So what was it like? What was it like for you and your sister Scherrie growing up in the Motor City?
You know what? Our lives, just forget anybody that's visited Detroit within the last, let's say, 20 or 30 years, they probably have a different view of Detroit. But let me tell you, back in the 50s when we grew up in Detroit, let's say 50s and part of the 60s, and Scherrie and I were both born in the 40s, Detroit was one of the major metropolitan cities and one of the most thriving cities in America. And that was because of that's why we got the name Motor City, the Motor City, because all the major car factories were located there. As a matter of fact, they gave birth, that was where they originated. Henry Ford, who discovered the automobile, the first automobile, Henry Ford.
Model T, wasn't it?
Ford Motor Company, you had Chevrolet, you had Dodge, you had Cadillac, and all these, and everybody had jobs. All the men in my family, my father, my uncles, some certain cousins, I guess, who were older, had jobs in the motor cities, in the motor factories there. So it was just a normal thing. So when the demise, or when the motor company started to not produce as much, because the Japanese started to emerge with Toyota and all their different cars, and then Korea and China, and people started buying other cars from let's say Mercedes and what have you, and then all of a sudden the jobs weren't there anymore. You know what I mean? There were layoffs, and things sort of went down from there. Yeah.
So,
but Scherrie and I, back to Scherrie and I, I think we had a very stable, middle class kind of upbringing where we lived. We always owned our property, and we always had, we never went to private school. My mother said she couldn't afford to put us in private school, but we always went to public schools, and we had a pretty nice, I would say, a pretty stable upbringing.
Did you go to church every Sunday and sing gospel like most of us, or did you?
Yeah, I'm a Christian, and our church, our family church was Bethel AME, and it was a Methodist Episcopal, African Methodist Episcopal, right? And we went to church from the time we were old enough to walk. Sunday school, church, Bible study, and all that stuff. And it was mandatory. As we got older, it was mandatory to go to church. And of course, I don't go to church as much as I used to as an adult. I mean, I kind of, now and then I go, and I have belonged to a couple of churches here in the Los Angeles area, but I don't go to churches like I used to. It's like, now Scherrie, on the other hand, is the church lady. Scherrie goes to church, rain, shine, whether she's tired or not. She's very loyal. That's Scherrie. Yeah.
It's funny, you're talking about Sunday school. Like here in the UK, when I was a child growing up in the 60s, it was mandatory for us to go to Sunday school. But for some reason over there, it's all stopped now, and I don't know what happened. We did religious studies. We went to Sunday school. We did all of that, and for some reason, it's just all gone now here in the UK. I don't think there's anything like that for the kids nowadays. I think it's wrong. To tell you the truth, basically.
Well, you know what? It's a funny thing. It's a challenge about religion right now, because I'll tell you why. Because of so many atrocities and so many things are going on in the world now. You see people really losing their minds. People killing other people, the mass shootings. We have all these shootings here in this country now. No place, you say, remember the song Martha Reeves, No Place to Run to, No Place to Hide?
No way to run,
I think of that song now. It's like that now. It's like you think, I'll go to church, I'll be safe. Guess what? You have crazy person shooting people in church now. You say, I go to school. I mean, my kid is safe in school. No more. No more. Good. You can go to a grocery store. It could happen anywhere at any time. So it's almost like when you have to kind of have your antennas up to kind of sense if something is wrong or something doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? So that's about it. And also back to the religion. I still lean on my religion when it comes to stuff like I still look up to a higher power, the power of the universe, to protect me and to guide me, and that there is a God, and that God is inside of all of us. It just depends upon how you channel it.
Oh, that's true. That's right. That's true. That's true. So, I have one for you because I found this because I've been doing my homework. All right. How old were you when you started singing radio commercials?
When I started singing as an amateur, I was in my teens.
Uh-huh.
And I was 13, 13. I started entering talent contests and on TV and otherwise, and then when I was 14, I auditioned to be on a radio show called Don Large's Make Way for Youth, and I was a part of that choral group, and I did. Don Large used to appoint me to do solos, and then as a teenager, still I also sang, and I was hired to sing with a big band. That was the Jimmy Wilkins Orchestra. It was sort of like Detroit's version of Count Basie or Duke Ellington. And he would hire me, for certain lavish affairs. I was about 15 years old or 16 at that time. And, so that's how I started out.
Tell us about, tell our listeners about the time you were at a talent show when you were 16-year-old and met Sammy Davis Jr.
I was 13.
You were 13? Oh, sorry.
13 years old, and the show was called Ed McKenzie's Dance Hour. And it was, I think, Channel 4, NBC in Detroit. And it was sort of like Dick Clark's American Bandstand. And I entered the talent contest, and I won. So Sammy Davis Jr. was on the show because he was working at the Elmwood Casino, which was one of our major supper clubs, but it was over across the river in Canada, in Windsor, Canada, and so he was booked on the show to perform, and so after I won, we took a picture together with me holding my trophy.
Oh. You still have a picture? You still have a picture?
Huh?
You still have a picture? Still have
I have that picture.
Yeah.
Yes, I have it. It's black and white, 8x10. Yeah.
Now, your roots are in jazz music, so which jazz singer inspired you as a child to become a singer, or was it something else?
Back when I was 12, 13, I was inspired by Ella Fitzgerald.
Uh-huh.
Ella was my most, let's say, influential inspiration. And then, who else inspired me? Judy Garland.
Judy.
And Sarah Vaughan. I thought she was just a masterful vocalist as well. And then there was Della Reese. And I used to hear about Billie Holiday. So I kind of was mesmerized by her as well. But more so, Ella Fitzgerald.
Well, we're going to talk about Ella in the second part, because I do believe you did something to say, but that's going to come in the second part. But until then, I've got one for you now. In 1963, you moved to New York. What was it like working with Quincy Jones and Pearl Bailey?
Well, I worked with Pearl Bailey when I was still living in Detroit. I was 17.
Oh, did you? Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was 17 years old, and I was still living at home in Detroit. And I auditioned for Pearl Bailey because she was on tour, and she needed one of her background singers. Left the show, the review, and she was auditioning. They were auditioning to find a replacement, and so I auditioned, and I got hired. That's how I got to work with Pearl Bailey. And then with Quincy, I was 18. I went to New York when I was 18. And that was actually about 1961 or 62, actually, about 1962 or 61. 62, I would say. And that's when I met Q, and he heard me sing, and then he called and and asking me if I would like to sing with his band. He had a booking at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, and he had Billy Eckstine, who at that time was a superstar.
Yeah.
And Billy Eckstine was headlining along with Quincy's big band. Red Fox was the comedian, and Honey Coles and Charlie Atkins were the tap dance duo. They call it Coles and Atkins. Oh. And I was hired as the singer. So then a year later he asked me to work with him again. So that was I got to make a correction. That was probably around 63 when that happened. And then the following year, 64, we did it again at the Apollo, and then we went to a theater in Chicago called the Regal Theater in Chicago.
So tell me about your debut album entitled After the Lights Go Down. How did that come about, your first album? Oh,
I was living in New York. I was 20 years old, and I had an agent. The agency was GAC. They were my first agency, and my agent was Sidney Bernstein. Sidney Bernstein was noted as the agent who first brought the Beatles to America.
Yes, yeah.
And he was my agent. And he's the one that was instrumental in getting me signed to ABC Paramount Records. So I did one single with ABC Paramount, and it was called Slightly Out of Tune. It was a song that had been a hit by a saxophone player by the name of Stan Getz. And what they did, somebody wrote lyrics to it, and so matter of fact, I think Ella did a rendition of it as well.
And I think she did.
There were several singers who did a rendition of Slightly Out of Tune, and I did a version. And then a year later, they decided to record me on a full-out album, and they put me on their jazz label, and that label was called Impulse. And so Impulse, that was a label where you found jazz musicians like John Coltrane, on that label, and people of that ilk. It was like the equivalent of Blue Note or Verve.
Yeah.
And that was my very first recording. My first LP was After the Lights Go Down Low and Much More on Impulse. Right. So that was 1960.
What year was that? 1961.
63.
63. Now I'm going to jump a couple of years. And bring it to 1969. Brian Holland, Lamont Dozier, and Eddie Holland persuaded you to go back to the hometown Detroit. Now, was it them, or was it something to do with a conversation that your mother had with Berry Gordy?
Oh, yeah. That happened. That happened when I was probably around 14 years old.
Oh, what?
And yeah, I was his first female protege, and I'm not just saying that. That's quote Berry Gordy Jr. himself. And he said he used to go to I used to take ballet and I took Afro-Cuban lessons, and he used to come to my Afro-Cuban classes and watch me dance. And then he started writing songs for me, and he wrote 3 songs, and we recorded those songs at a recording studio that was on West Grand Boulevard, just down the street from where he, a few years later, established Hitsville, West Grand Boulevard in Detroit.
Yeah.
It was called, the studio at the time was called United Sound. Mind you, there was no Motown at the time. He had not even gotten to that point. So we recorded the 3 songs. One was called Father Dear, and then the other one was called The Moon Rock, and then the other song was called Applications for Love. They were all kind of like very popish. Mm-hmm. And we then went to New York, he, my mother, and I, and a guy named George Kelly, and we drove in George Kelly's white Cadillac to New York, and then Barry, I think, took a meeting with Morris Levy, who was the president of Roulette Records, and then, of course, we drove back home, I think, and Barry stayed over in New York, and he eventually got back. And then he took a meeting with my mother and came to our home, and they were sitting in the living room, and they were discussing business about managing. He wanted to manage me. And he and my mother, I'm not going to get into all the logistics, but my mother didn't agree with the terms he was proposing, and he wouldn't he wouldn't back off, and she insisted on a certain thing to be changed, and he wouldn't change anything. So that's what happened. That's how I never got signed first of all, I could have been signed to him as my manager, but that never happened. And then years later, in this, like around 65, I encountered Barry in Manchester, England, and he had the Motown Review was coming through, and I was actually I was working there, in a private nightclub there, performing, and he came to see me, and of course he invited me to come to the review, and I went to see the review. It was at an old theater there. I'm sure I don't remember the name of the theater, but everybody, the Supremes were there with Diana, Florence, and Mary, and the Miracles with Smokey, and all the original Miracles, including Claudette, and then Jimmy Walker, is that the one that saxophone player?
Yep. That's the guy.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And Stevie Wonder, I think he was like
Wonder. He was then
he was a kid, like about 13, 12 or 13 at the time. And so it was like all these people. I remember back then. So Barry then said, when you get back to Detroit, which I was scheduled to fly back home in a month, 3 to 4 weeks. He said, when you get back to Detroit, call me and we can, sign you to the label. So I got back, and he sent a contract. He gave me a contract, and I showed the contract to our lawyer and everything, and our lawyer said, well, we have to change just a couple of very small minor things. Barry didn't want to change one thing, not one thing. So that never happened. So that's my story.
That's very, isn't it? Yes. No,
but you know what? We're friends today. I love him. He loves me, I suppose, and I'm very, very close with the Gordys. Yes.
Yes. So tell me about the love you have with musical theatre.
Well, my experience with musical theatre started in New York when I got to become the understudy for Leslie Uggams in a hit Broadway show called Hallelujah Baby on Broadway. Yeah. And I was the only understudy to ever go on in Leslie and play the role 5 times. Wow. And the first time I did it, I got a standing ovation, and that was sort of like to me, like, oh, God, I can't believe it, But, and then from there, that point on, and that was in 1967, and then the next show, then I did Lost in the Stars, the Kirk Weill musical. I played the role of Linda, and that was at the Equity Theater in New York. And then after that, I did Duke Ellington's Sophisticated Ladies, and I did that in Las Vegas. They had a Las Vegas company at the Desert Inn that went for 8 months. And then after that, I did a national company. They call it Bus and Truck National Company, and that was in 1985, and that lasted about 8 or 9 months. And then I did another company. I did a company in Europe, in Italy, Sophisticated Ladies, and then I did it in Oslo, Norway, and I've done it all over. I've done about 7 separate companies of Duke Ellington's Sophisticated Ladies. And then I did another a Broadway musical that was launched here in L.A. before it went to Broadway, and that was Jelly's Last Jam. And I did the first and the only national company here in the U.S. of Jelly's Last Jam, and that lasted a whole year.
Wow. That was a long time.
And then I did another show, a musical. It's called The Blues in the Night. That was conceived by Sheldon Epps and directed by Sheldon Epps. And I've done, let's say, 5 companies or 6 companies of The Blues in the Night here in L.A. And I did it. We did it in Japan. There was Japan company. I did that one, and then Seattle Repertory and
wide and varied.
Playhouse and so I've done quite a bit, and I've done just straight out plays as well with Donald B. Welch. He writes. He's an author. He's a playwright, and got some screenplays as well. Change is Gonna Come, and the latest one I did with him was called The Divorce, and that was a straight out play. So I've done a lot of stuff. And then there's a film right now I think that's going to come out. I just had a cameo role in it. It's called Kinky, and that's going to be coming out I think this year sometime. I was expecting it to be out already, but I did Huh?
I was going to say, when it comes out, or when it's due to come out, give me the press pack for it and I'll advertise it.
Yeah, and then I had another short little cameo role in one of Eddie Murphy's films. It was one of the Nutty Professor. This was Nutty Professor the Clumps, and that's the one that was, he had Janet Jackson's, starring in that one.
Yeah, that was actually going to come. That was going to come to my second part of the interview. But why you brought that up? Because I'll ask it now before we have a break for music. I normally ask the artist I interview if there's any funny stories. Now, about the Clumps, have you a funny behind-the-scenes story that you can share that you know about Eddie Murphy and yourself, or did anything really happen behind the scenes?
No, I can't say anything crazy or funny other than the fact that it was a pleasure working with him, and I just felt very comfortable and right at home, like, oh, wow, I'm doing this, and this is what I should be doing, and why not? Yeah. And it was so funny because every time we would stop, and, usually people clown around. You would expect Eddie to clown around in between takes. He got real quiet, like he was concentrating and thinking, and then when they said action, he would jump right into it. He would jump right into his character, just like that. So working with Eddie Murphy, he's a very, I'll put it this way, he's very professional. Yeah. Very professional, yeah.
Right, what we're going to do now is we're going to have a small break for music, and then we're going to come back for part 2. So if you'd like to stick on, my love, is that okay with you, Freda?
If I'd like to what?
Stick around for a while I play some of your music.
Okay, sure. I can go and do some stuff. I'll put my blender
on. Okay. So we'll be back with you in about 15 minutes' time.
All right. Okay, I'll keep the phone open.
Keep the phone open. Hello and welcome back to Soul Sensations. We are, with Miss Freda Payne for our second little interview with her. Hello, Freda. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Did you enjoy your smoothie?
I didn't get a chance to drink it yet.
Oh, bless.
No, right, but it's done. It's sitting on top of I have a Vitamix. It's sitting on top of the mount.
Do you want to quickly go and get it? You can if you want,
Yeah, right.
Now, not soon after your return to Detroit, Eddie Holland offered you the song "Band of Gold" to record. Now, how did that come about?
Well, first of all, that was our first recording. I recorded several songs during the year of 1969, and Band of Gold was one of them, The Unhooked Generation. There are other songs that I recorded during that time, and I thought they were all good, and they brought Band of Gold to me, and I worked on it, and we went in the studio and we recorded it, as we had recorded other songs as well. And the first song they dropped, that's a term they use in the record business, they released was called The Unhooked Generation. And I thought that was a pretty hot song. I mean, the track was really slamming. And the lyrics were kind of, like appropriate. I just kicked the habit of being a fool for you. It was almost like a gimmicky lyric. And but it didn't generate, and it didn't hit. You know what I mean? It didn't stick.
Yeah.
So then they decided that Band of Gold was the next strongest song, and they put that out in January. It was either January or February of 1970.
Yeah.
And then it took about a month or so, or 6 weeks or something like that, and then that started to heat up, and then that started to climb up the charts, and that was the hit. That was the major hit. Yeah.
Well, what happened with Band of Gold here in the UK was that went straight into number one, and it stayed at number one for 6 weeks.
Right.
And because I was chatting with Susie about this last week, because they come across here for to do some Northern Soul gigs. Band of Gold was picked up on the Northern Soul scene, and it was massive, and was continued to play out from then, and it's still getting played now heavily. Did you know that?
I didn't know. You mean right, like as of this year or this time, Band of Gold gets played still?
I play it every session.
Oh wow! So it gets it's good to hear and good to know.
Yeah, it gets played every session. If you go to any Motown nightclub, or if you go to a Motown venue or a Northern Soul venue here in the UK, you will hear Freda Payne's Band of Gold.
Oh, wow.
Twice a night.
That makes me feel really good and really special. Oh, you know what I want to tell you? I kind of like when we were talking about my theatrical theater resume and experience. I was remiss in including my Ella Fitzgerald theatrical credits, and that is I played the role of Ella Fitzgerald in a musical play called Ella Fitzgerald, First Lady of Song, and I've done that 3 times, and that the last time was this year at the Delaware Theater in Wilmington, Delaware. It was like a 6-week run, and I've done it. That's my 3rd time doing it, and I want to bring it to the UK. I want to do it in London and the West End.
Well, we'll see what we do about that, because I was going to actually bring this play up later on, but now we're talking about it. How did it, because it was first done in 2014, is that correct?
It was first done in 2004 at a theater called Crossroads, which was a regional theater in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and then in 2014, it was done in Alexandria, Virginia, at a theater called Metro Stage, and that was an 8-week run. And then, of course, I just did it this year, Wilmington, Delaware Theater.
So how did that come about? Did somebody approach you and say, look, Freda would like you to play Ella, or was it...
I'll tell you how it came about. Maurice Hines, if you don't know, I'll give you, Maurice Hines had an act with his brother, the late Gregory Hines.
Yes,
and
Gregory, yeah.
Gregory Hines was one of the Harold is one of the great tap dancers of our time, as well as Maurice, his brother. They were both great tap dancers, and when they were kids, they worked with their dad, and it was called Hines, and Dad. And they worked Vegas. Matter of fact, they worked in London. They worked at the Palladium, and they were known internationally, and Maurice had worked with when they were still their act together, Hines, and Dad. Maurice, they had opened for Ella Fitzgerald at the Flamingo Hotel in Vegas, and Maurice had become friendly with Ella, and she would invite him to come and sit in her dressing room in between shows because she would never go out. She would always stay in her dressing room, and she befriended Maurice. So Maurice had an intimate experience in getting to know Ella. So what happened was when I toured Jelly's Last Jam, Maurice was the star. Now his brother Gregory was the star when they did it on Broadway and won a Tony for it. And then when they did the National Company, Gregory wasn't available. I guess he was booked to do a film or two. And Maurice was the star of the National Company, which also included Savion Glover. And Savion Glover, as you know, is probably the #1 tap dancer in the world. Mm-hmm. And he started when he was a kid as well. Well, I remember Maurice and I used to have dressing rooms side by side, and in some of the towns. And so I used to warm up and sing songs, like in my dressing room, warming my voice up. And one day, Maurice said, "Freda, has anybody ever told you that you sound just like Ella when you sing jazz?" I said, "Yes, I've heard that since I was 17, So what happened was in 2004, I get a call, and it's Maurice saying, "Freda, Crossroads in New Brunswick, New Jersey, they're producing the play about Ella. The book is done by Lee Summers, and I'm directing it. And I'm calling you because I want to know, would you be interested in playing the role of Ella?" And I said yes.
Wow.
And that's how it all started. So Maurice directed it and choreographed. And Lee Summers did the book.
And that's how it all came about. And you want to bring it to the UK?
We're working on it. I have a contact over there, and it's just being exploited, being looked after,
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. After we finish the interview, okay, I've got a guy I'm going to put you in touch with. All right? His name is Ricky Barnett, and used to have a chat. All right? And we might be able to get something sorted for you. How does that sound?
Sounds fantastic.
All right? So after we finish the interview, stay on, and I'll give you Ricky's details, and I'll telephone Ricky that you're going to phone him.
Okay.
All right? Right. Now, going back to this, now yes, this is what I want to know about. Whose idea was it for you to release the song "Bring the Boys Home"? Now, that was actually classed as a Vietnam protest song. So what was the idea behind it? And
what happened was, after Band to Go became such a huge success, less than a year later, like 10 months later, they were looking to put out a follow-up, another hit. So they actually put out Deeper and Deeper.
Yeah.
And Deeper and Deeper didn't quite, become a #1 hit, but it did chart.
Yeah.
And then they were looking for another hit. So finally, they called me to the office, and they played a demo of Bring the Boys Home, which was written by Angelo Bond, Greg Perry, and General Johnson, who was the lead singer of Chairman of the Board. And when I first heard it the first time, it brought tears to my eyes. And they said, "You like it?" I said, "I love it." They said, "Well, we're going to go and cut it on you." And that's how that came about.
And then it got just picked up, and that was the main one. I love that song. I play what I can. And everybody knows that I do my recordings of interviews the day before. Today is Remembrance Day, and this will be getting played out again tonight as well, and tomorrow.
I know. I was watching it on CNN, and and MSNBC. When late last night, it was like 1:00 in the morning, and I was watching it. Yeah. From Paris.
Were you in Paris yesterday? I just caught you.
I was watching on television on the telly.
Oh, right.
What's that? President Macron, and all the president of Germany, Marco, and of course, what's his name? Our president. Oh my God, Donald Trump, and a lot of the heads of the presidents of prime ministers of different countries. Yes.
I know it's a brilliant track. You never get over it. So honestly, it's so beautiful. Now, moving quickly on, in the year 1973, that was the year you left Invictus and you joined Capitol Records, and you went on to record a track, a duet with Tavares.
You're missing something. I left Invictus in 73, and my contract was bought out by ABC Records.
All right, yeah. I didn't have that.
Yeah, I recorded 2 albums on the ABC label. Yeah. So the first one was called Pain and Pleasure. And Lamont Dozier was the actual producer on that one, although he's not listed because he was in some legal machinations. You know, he was a lawsuit, I think, and he couldn't use his name, but he was the actual producer on that. And then that was the first one, Pain, and then the second one was called Out of Pain Comes Love. Then I signed with Capitol in 1976.
No, you're right. I apologize about that. I do try to have a really good in-depth into my bios, but I didn't miss that bit out. I'm sorry about that, Freda. Do you forgive us?
Yeah, that's okay.
So what was it like working with Tavares?
Oh, it was very nice. I was flattered. You know, it was nice to do the duet with them. And it was a pretty good song. It was a very good song. And I enjoyed working with them. And, of course, their producer. Yeah. You know, I don't remember his name right now because I'm having a senior moment. Wasn't Robert Stigwood their producer at the time? Because was it just before or just after Saturday Night Fever? I can't remember. No, I don't. What's that name again?
Robert Stigwood.
No, I don't think he was. I don't think he was the producer of Tavares at the time. But at least not on that song.
Yeah, because that song had massive airplay here in the UK and became a massive hit. Did you know that as well?
Well, say that again.
The duet you did with Tavares was heavily airplayed here in the UK, and there's also.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that.
It was a massive hit. So you have to get get all these royalties sorted out. You might have a couple of quids coming your way. You don't know,
yeah. You're right. Oh, yeah, I got to look into that one. You know the one, speaking of doing a duet, and I got to tell you this because I'm mystified, and like sometimes when you have all the right elements, and it's just not maybe in the cards or whatever, I believe in stuff like that, you know, the mystical, all that stuff. Remember I did that duet with Sir Cliff Richards?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Saving a Life. It was called Saving a Life, and it was written by Lamont Dozier's son, Bo Dozier. It was an excellent song. It was a really well-written song, and it was really good, and it came out on EMI. It was released, I believe, 2012, I believe, I think. Yeah.
Wrong on that, yeah.
Yeah, and they flew me over there to do some Loose Women, to do like 2 or 3 different TV shows with Cliff, and then I did the tour with him, the Solicious tour, and I was so thinking that was going to really be a big song over there, but it didn't quite make the mark, and I was so disappointed because I thought it was really good, and it was good. It still is good.
Well, all you need to do now is we just have to get it back out there and start playing it and get people to go, oh, yeah, that's it. I'll start playing it, and I'll put out on Soul Radio USA.
Saving a life, yeah. It's definitely worthy of being brought back. It really is. Yeah. And, of course, my dear friend David Guest is no longer with us, so
yes, I know.
That was another thing that I miss. I miss David Guest.
So, Freda, what have you got lined up for the future?
Well, I'm looking forward to recording again. I'm looking forward to doing either something in the pop field or jazz field, and I'm probably going to be going more into the jazz field rather than pop or R&B. But I'm not going to abandon my R&B roots at all. No. But also, I'm looking forward to getting the Ella Fitzgerald First Lady of Song booked into London.
Yeah, well, we're going to work on that one. Like I said, I'll have a chat with you and pass your details on to Ricky, and then you two can have a chat and see where it goes from there. I think it will go down a storm, to tell the truth. I think it will be brilliant if you can bring that across here. I really do.
Yeah, well, the thing is that with Ella, was Ella big, or is she still someone that people would really come out to see in the UK?
Well, put it this way, we in Newcastle, just in Newcastle alone, right, we have 2 jazz bars that just solely do jazz. Right, so, and they are full.
This would be theater, this would be
theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is there is a following for jazz music. It is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in Newcastle, we wouldn't have bars just dedicated to one type of music if it wasn't with the owners.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would work. Have you any social media platforms where fans can get in touch with you, new ones and old ones?
I have a website, FredaPayne.com. I have a website, and they can get in touch with me like that.
Yep. And on there will be all your details from what you've done in the past and what will be coming up in the future as well, yeah?
Yes, that's correct.
So, finally, do you have anything you'd like to add? Have you got any shout-outs or thank yous to anyone?
Oh, wow. Well, I have my friend Vi Pearlie Gates, who lives in London. She's in that group. Her group is the what's that? Oh my God!
One moment. Sorry, don't worry about it. It's all right.
Never. Just say my friend Vi Pearlie Gates. Yes. Yeah. Oh, and also to Margaret Harry in Liverpool, and to Barry Silkman, Color of Silk, and there are a few people I like. There are a lot of shout outs. Yeah. Oh, to Sir Cliff Richards, I love him. It was a joy working with him. That was one of the best tours I'd ever done. From the time I first started, coming to the UK. That was one of the best tours, doing that tour with him. So, and so many, some of our fellow performers have left us now. We have to say in memoriam. So that saddens me. When somebody is no longer with us. Yeah.
Yeah. It's oh, by the way, on a good note, we were talking about Tavares. Tribute was in the
totally. Vi. The Flirtations. The name of her group is the Flirtations, and she's the lead singer of the group.
I knew you'd get there, and I love the Flirtations actually. But what I was going to say there
and also Sheila Ferguson. I want to say a shout out to Sheila Ferguson.
Yeah, she's actually in London at this time, isn't she? She's still there. She's been living in the UK for a while now, hasn't she, Sheila?
Oh, she's been there for a long time. Wow, what is it, 35 years or so?
Something like that, yeah. And no people know that. But, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was going to tell you there. Chubby Tavares was he rushed into hospital there the other day, and he's had surgery, but he's okay now. I've spoken to the family, and in case you were worried, he's doing very well now at this moment.
I'm so happy to hear that, because I saw that. I saw something about that online. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. Good.
Everything's good. Right, Freda, it's been great chatting with you. You know, even though it's only took about 4 years to get in touch with you.
Oh, my God.
But we've known each other for longer than I think. I first met you at the Dozier Holland paving stone laying ceremony in Hollywood. That's when I first met you. And then, but we just seemed to. I've interviewed your sister about 5 times, but I'm glad I finally got a chance to chat with you, Freda. I tell you, it's been brilliant.
Oh, speaking of Scherrie, Scherrie's play, a play that she wrote, it's called A Lady in Waiting, and it was that was on last night here in L.A. in Hollywood at a theater called the Barnsdall Theater, and I was there last night, and it was very, very well received.
Yeah, I advertised that actually all I've been advertising that for about a month now. It would. Stuff like that, it should be advertised more, I think, because I don't think it gets the coverage that it needs. Anything like that, should be really put out there. That's what I think.
Right, right. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, right, Freda, don't go away. I'm going to give you the details of that gathering you get in touch with. But once again, thank you so much for joining me here on Social Occasions. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I want to give you something after we cut off the air, okay? Speak to you personally, okay?
Oh, okay, my darling. Thank you very much. Oh, okay, my love. Well, once again, many thanks. I'll speak to you soon.
All right.